are tuning into the TV or that, and I also record it. First, a little bio on myself. I'm known as the PC guy because I have the license plate PC guy. I'm the son of John Kreuzer here at Carondelet, and John's in back there. I retired after 40 years working at 3M in information technology. I actually retired, it's going on I think 9 years now. I am currently an officer and I do present for the 3M Personal Computing Club. So we're still active, even with retirees and that. At its peak in the 1980s and early 90s, we had 1,200 members in the 3M club. So we had people like, at one of our meetings, we had Microsoft Word for DOS. If any of you remember the DOS operating system, DOS, that was what the first computers had. Well, Bill Gates was in town and he presented to the 3M club on demo on Microsoft Word, because at the time Microsoft Word was used by practically no one. So when the computers first came out, WordPerfect was the #1 word processing program that people used. It was only later that Microsoft Word started being a standard in that. I mention in here I'm thrifty, not cheap, and that especially comes to buying a new computer. So I look for getting the best bang for the buck and things like that. I do mention here also at Carondelet, I do one-on-one free tech help. So if you do have questions, you can schedule a 30-minute slot. I usually do the first and the third Monday of every month from 1 to 3 p.m. So there's 4 slots. There's also another gentleman here, Tom Strom, who usually does the second and the fourth Wednesdays of each month from 2:30 to 4:30. And you can sign up at the front desk or by calling *5000. Okay, I do these once a month. So the next one that I'll be doing coming up July 16th will be on software. So software for your laptop or desktop. Software that I use, but also what's the most popular software being used out there. Also, I mentioned here Fix-It Clinic, along with my brother-in-law and sister and my dad. We put on usually every 2 months or so Fix-It Clinic. So if you have anything that's broken, small appliances, lamps, electronics, even questions, computer questions, if you think it can be answered in a 15-minute time slot, you can sign up for the Fix-It Clinic, and the next one of those will be July 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. Okay, also I mentioned here the website. So if you're not familiar, out at the Carondelet website, this is several years ago, I added a new menu item out there, and it's called Tech Help. And this Tech Help will get you to the calendar of the things that I was talking about when the fix-its are and the presentations and the one-on-one help. It also has resources, so past meetings. If you miss any of the meetings or just want to revisit a meeting, you can go out to the website and you can watch the meeting or look at the handout again. Also, it has FAQs, frequently asked questions, and you can actually ask a question out there also. Okay, let's get to our main topic, which is buying a computer by myself, Tom Kreuzer. And you'll notice I don't just show one device. Nowadays, computers come in all different flavors and sizes and capabilities. And so we have, most of us have used things like a phone, a tablet, laptop, desktop, come in all different shapes and sizes. The past 50 years, computers have evolved from being that bulky desktop, so that was the only option for most people back in the 80s and the 90s, to where today the devices are integrated into our daily lives in all these different devices. Today we're surrounded by choices, whether it's smartphones, tablets, laptops, desktops, hybrids, and even smart devices embedded in everyday objects that we use. With so many options, selecting the right one can feel as complex as picking the perfect motor vehicle. Excuse me. So I show some different motor vehicles, and I always tell people it's kind of like picking a car. There isn't one car that everyone buys, or some people have 3 cars. They have a motor home because they like to go on vacation. They have a pickup truck because when they want to move a refrigerator, they need a pickup truck. You wouldn't use a Mini Cooper here and expect to be able to put a refrigerator in there and move it. So you have all these different vehicles because people have different needs. And that's exactly the same thing in computers. We have all these different computers and prices and models and sizes because there's no one perfect one that does everything. You want to pick the one that fits your needs. And hopefully your needs aren't this do-it-yourself fan deal down here. What works for one person or purpose may not suit another person. So that's why it's important to figure out what you really need. Not what your friend has, not what somebody on TV is trying to sell. It's what do you need to accomplish what you want to do. The keys to making the best decision starts with defining your specific needs and your budget. Are you looking for a machine for work? Is it for gaming? Is it for content creation? Or is it everyday browsing? And we'll talk a lot about requirements and what your needs may be to try and help you figure out what you need there. Once you have a clear mind of what your needs are, what you're trying to do with that computer, then you can start looking at some of the essential factors such as size, maybe the operating system, the processor speed, the RAM capacity, the storage space, the graphics performance, all these other things to narrow down what you're actually looking for. Each component plays a role in ensuring your device meets your needs and your demands effectively. Ultimately, the best computer is the one that fits your lifestyle and enhances your productivity without breaking the bank. Because most of us, again, I'm thrifty, I'm not cheap. I don't want to spend more than I have to spend, but I do want to take advantage and be able to do the things that I want. Approach your choice thoughtfully, and you'll find the perfect digital companion for your needs. These are some trends that I have from the 3M Personal Computing Club. I started asking a question back in 2014 about how many people had a smartphone. Well, back in 2014, only 61% of the people in the club had a smartphone. Today, that number is 98%. Probably should be 100%, but you can see how over the years, more and more people bought smartphones because they started getting cheaper. People wanted to use them for particular functions, so it evolved to where almost everybody has one now in the club. We now have a very powerful computer with us, 7 by 24. So when you have this, you have a computer. You have it with you. You can do thousands and thousands of things on here. Same is true of a tablet. So a tablet, back in 2014, in the club, 60% of the people had a tablet. That number actually hasn't gone up that much. It's only up to 81% now. I think that number should be 100% because you can get tablets today starting at less than $30 for a tablet. I use my tablet more than my desktop at home. I'm not going to get rid of my desktop, but a tablet can do many things there. I use my tablet in my kitchen, garage, bathroom, bedroom, deck outside, everywhere. I can use it anywhere there. And also I mentioned here, many seniors can use a tablet with a keyboard and not need to buy a laptop or a desktop. So when I talk to people here at Carondelet, people assume, well, I had a desktop before, I just should get a desktop. Well, again, depending on your needs, you may not need a desktop. You may not need a laptop. You've got options. We've all got options there. So what are some other trends? Here's another trend from the survey. This is the percent of time that people spend between their tablet, their smartphone, and a desktop or a laptop. And these are current figures for this year. So when they need to use a computer, where do they go? Well, 52% of the time they're going to a desktop or a laptop. 31% of the time they're going to their smartphone, and 17% of the time they're going to their tablet. So again, you can do more and more things on your phone where you don't have to go to a desktop or a laptop or other things. So the numbers, specifically using a desktop or a laptop, used to be back in 2014, 81% of the time was spent on a desktop or a laptop. Now it's down to 50, and it's going to get even less. We've got a number of people in the PC club that don't even have a laptop or a desktop. They just use a tablet or a smartphone and don't need the desktop laptop. Tablets and smartphones both are being used more and more because they can do a lot more, and the costs have come down. Okay, next let's talk about some of these different devices, and we'll talk about what each of these devices is good for and what some of its shortcomings are. And we'll start with the smallest, the phone. The nice thing about a phone is it's very portable. You can put it in a pocket or a purse. It's great for content consumption. And by content consumption, that just means you're looking at things. You're reading email. You're looking at Facebook. You're watching movies. Excuse me. A little tickle in the throat. You're watching movies. You're playing music. You're playing games. You aren't writing the next novel. Because writing on a phone isn't the easiest thing to do in the world. So you wouldn't use it for that. But for content consumption, looking something up, checking on your bank account, things like that, I don't have to log on to my laptop. I don't have to log on to my desktop. I can use my phone. Some of the cons of a phone, or the downsides there, are the small display. Typically it's 4 inches to 6 inches. And the content creation is harder. And the reason it's harder is you don't have a physical keyboard, and you don't have a mouse, and the small display. Another con is the life of this device is relatively short, usually 3 years, at most 5 years, and that's due to the battery having problems, the operating systems no longer supported on there, and they're just plain out of date. Okay, let's step up in devices. Now we'll talk about the pros of a tablet. Well, tablets are nice because they're portable and lightweight. They're great for content consumption, just like the phone, where you're browsing, you're checking email, your social media, Facebook, things like that. It's great for that. Another pro is it's got a bigger display than the phone itself. And the display usually is 7 inches to 10 inches big there. You have millions of apps that can run on it. It has a touch screen, so it's easier to use for a lot of people than a laptop, so they can just touch or drag and drop and do things on there. Some of the cons of a tablet is it's a smaller display than a laptop, so laptops tend to have bigger displays. Content creation is harder, just like with a phone. You don't have a keyboard, you don't have a mouse, small display. However, on a tablet, you can add a keyboard or you can add a mouse. So people that do want to use a tablet for content creation frequently will add an external keyboard and potentially a mouse to be able to make it easier to create it there. You also have limited storage, but you can use cloud storage up on the internet. It does also have limited hardware ports to plug things in than a laptop. But again, if your needs are simple and you don't need to plug anything in, they work great. Okay, next let's talk about a Chromebook. Are people familiar with a Chromebook as opposed? Okay, so basically a laptop, most laptops that people are familiar with would be an Apple or a Mac, iMac laptop, or a Windows or laptop. Well, the third category is Chrome. A Chromebook is like an Android tablet. The nice thing about these Chrome laptops are the price. The basic price for a Chrome laptop starts at $200. So you can get it starting at $200, and $600 gets you a very powerful Chrome laptop. Another pro is it has a low hardware requirement because the operating system is much simpler than the Mac or Apple operating system or the Windows operating system. The machines run a lot faster and don't require as much big a CPU and memory there. Nice thing also is the display is bigger than a tablet that you have. One of the pros also is usually these devices are supported for 10 years from the date that they were manufactured. So the manufacturer will continue to support them, unlike some of the others that are only supported 3 years or 5 years there. Some of the cons of a Chrome laptop, there's limited software. It can run a browser, so any website you can get to, that works very good. But if there's specific hardware, specific software that runs on a Macintosh or runs on a Windows machine, it's not going to run on a Chromebook there. Also, because they use the internet a lot, they do usually require that you're always connected to the internet to do most of the functions on there. You do have the limited storage, but if you're connected to the internet, you can use cloud storage for things. And you do have limited hardware ports like a phone or a tablet. Okay, next device we'll talk about is a laptop. So these would be the laptops that support Microsoft Windows or an Apple iMac laptop there. Nice thing about a laptop is its mobility. It can be used from room to room, can be used outside, you can take it to work, you can take it to classes, library, you can travel with it. They have bigger displays than a tablet, usually 12 inches to 17 inches. You have a full-size keyboard, so you have a keyboard that you can use. They come with a webcam and a mic to do video calls and that. It requires less space to set up and use than a desktop or a comparable item. They're great for content creation. So now you can create spreadsheets and Word files and long documents and things like that because you have that keyboard and things like that in there. Laptops currently outsell desktops 4-to-1. So desktops over the years, the number of units sold just keeps going down and down and down because people are using their phones more, they are using tablets, they're using laptops. The cost of laptops have come down, so laptops are much more popular than desktops. And you can add to a laptop usually a docking station if your requirement is to have bigger displays or multiple displays or things like that. Some of the cons of a laptop is the higher cost to buy or upgrade than a desktop. So they can be a little more expensive. They tend to have slower CPUs, and that's to extend the battery life, because the vendor is trying to make the batteries last as long as possible.
What's a CPU?
CPU is the central processing unit. That's the main thing doing all the operations. And on a laptop, on a desktop, you don't have the power constraints, so they run them and it takes more power and they get hotter, but they have bigger fans in there. Well, the laptops, they don't want to have as many fans, and they tend to run them slower so that they don't get hot. Okay, and then you have limited resolution on a laptop. Resolution is the screen size and how clear that screen is. You can usually get better screens on bigger displays or multiple displays. Limited internal expandability in these laptops because you can't add additional drives or memory. You have to replace it. It's more expensive to do things like that. They also tend to be more fragile and cost more to repair than a desktop. You have limited hardware ports than a desktop. That's where you may need a docking station if you want to get more ports there. Another problem with laptops can be overheating because of their compact design and limited cooling. Okay, the last device that we'll talk about for the pros and cons is a desktop. Well, this is performance-wise, you're going to get the most performance out of a desktop. That's because the laptops try and conserve the battery and the size. They tend to be the best value and the lower total cost of ownership. You tend to have bigger displays than a laptop because, again, you're not limited or trying to carry it around with you. You may have a 21-inch or a 24-inch or a 32-inch display, or use multiple displays. You have a better user interface with a full-size keyboard and mouse. You have more hardware ports and expansion. Then they come in different sizes and configurations, so I show a few of them here. This is an example of a tower. Then they make slim towers, which are about half this size. Then they make all-in-ones, where the computer is actually built into the display. So that's available. They also make what's called minis. So a mini literally fits in the palm of your hand. It's just a small little thing there, and I'll show you an example of a mini for sale in the demo part there. Some of the cons of the desktop: lack of mobility, so it's hard to move them around. They're basically, if you set it up in an office or in a room, that's where it's going to stay. They take more physical space. Also, you have to figure in the cost for displays, because you're going to have to buy a display. You're going to have to buy speakers, a webcam, and a mic if you want to have the video conferencing in that. And then you have no power backup, like all the other devices with a battery already do. So if you do have where power occasionally goes out and you lose what you were working on, desktops don't automatically switch over to battery because they don't have a battery, whereas a smartphone, a tablet, and a laptop all have a battery, so you essentially never lose anything there. Okay, what devices do you need? Use this handout as a guide to capture your needs. Start by deciding on your primary use. What are you going to be using this thing for? That's going to push you towards a preferred operating system, whether it's Windows or Mac or Chrome. And then the last part is the budget part of it. You can research different devices and their features to ensure it meets your needs. Finally, consider where to buy. You can buy these computers or devices at many different places, whether it's retail stores or online. You can compare prices before making final decisions. These are some general categories for, now we'll kind of talk mainly about laptops and desktops. And these are some of the cost ranges for a typical laptop or desktop. If it's priced under $400, and there's hundreds of models that are under $400, what you usually get is a basic processor, 4 to 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 to 256 gigabytes of storage, and an integrated display graphics. And the integrated display graphics, that just means that the graphics are built into the motherboard that's on the computer, and they provide basic functions. They aren't good for gaming, they aren't good for 3D rendering or doing sophisticated things there. But they are good, usage-wise, for browsing the web, for checking your email, for light office, and by office I'm talking about things like Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint, light office work there. They're also good for light photo editing. So if you have photos and you're editing, good for that. They're good for video calls. They're good for light media streaming and for social media. Now if you bump up and price range go from $400 to $800, you get a mid-range processor, so a faster processor in there. And that also comes usually with more memory, 8 to 16 gigabytes of RAM, more storage, 256 to 512, and a higher resolution display. So you get that in that 400. That's good for the basic stuff that we talked about, but also will work for most people doing office work, multimedia, casual gaming, and light editing. Now you move up to the 800 to 1200, you get a faster processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, a bigger hard drive, and a 2K or 4K display. That's great for video editing, audio editing, moderate gaming, and multitasking, where you've got multiple applications or windows open and you're copying stuff back and forth and doing a bunch of things at one time. 1200 to 2000 gets you a high-end processor, 16 to 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte of hard drive, and a 4K display. That's good for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, if you're going to do it locally on your computer, requires a great deal of horsepower, and so you need these high-end processors. Also, if you're doing professional work, you don't want to be bogged down or slowed down. You want something as fast as possible. Advanced gaming and heavy multitasking, it's good for. $2,000 and above will give you the top tier processors, 32 gigabytes of RAM or more, 1 terabyte or more of hard disk space, high-end GPU. So you asked about the CPU as a central processing unit, but what you end up with some of these now is they have a CPU, central processing unit, you have a GPU, which is a graphics processing unit, and then you have an NPU, which is a neural processing unit. And all of these processors and the cores are needed for the more sophisticated things. In some cases, artificial intelligence, or 3D rendering, or VR development. And if you're doing intense software use, that's what you want. Also, if you aren't constrained by cost, you can certainly go for the high end there too. Okay, some other things to consider. An old device using an operating system that is not being updated should be replaced. You should be buying a new computer or a new device of some sort there. If it's not getting updated, it's vulnerable to hackers and viruses and things like that. And usually it can't be updated. The operating system isn't able to be updated to new versions, and therefore apps and certain software is not also being able to be updated. Examples there are if you have Microsoft, you may be familiar that Microsoft 10 is going away in October of this year, is no longer supported, so you should not be using a machine running Windows 10. Some machines can be updated to Windows 11, but not all Windows 10 machines can be updated to Windows 11. And Windows 12 is coming out before the end of the year also. On a Mac, Apple only supports versions 13, 14, and 15. Frequently people are running 11 and 12, and I've even seen some with 8 or 9. They just continue to run. It's not being updated, and it's susceptible to a virus or a hacker getting access to your machine. On an iPhone, Apple only supports versions 17 and 18. So if you've got an iPhone and it's running version 15 or 14 or 13 or 12 or 10 or 9 or 8 or 7, you shouldn't be using it. You should be buying a new device that can run one of these currently supported operating systems. For Android, a similar type of thing. Your Android devices should be running version 13, 14, or 15. And this is where you have to plan to replace your devices every 3 to 5 years. That's kind of just how it works. New versions come out, the vendor doesn't support the old versions, and they want to sell new hardware. Well, if you play stubborn and say, well, the phone still works and everything's still working for me, just wait until you get hacked or lose some information. It wasn't worth it. So you do want to run an operating system that is supported by the vendor there. Another thing to consider is how much time do you plan to spend on the device? Well, somebody who's spending less than an hour or 2 hours a week is completely different than somebody that's spending 40 to 60 hours a week on their device doing work. You want something probably faster, but if you're only using it an hour or two, you probably don't need the speed there. Hard disk space, that used to be a more important thing because we didn't have the cloud to be able to store things up on. But now if you do plan on storing stuff on your laptop or on your desktop, you have to be conscious of how much space some of this stuff can take, whether it's pictures or audio or video. And 8K video, which an iPhone or some of the new Androids is capable of recording, can take anywhere from 30 gigabytes to 200 gigabytes per hour of recording. So if you videotape a Christmas presentation, you can eat up all of your space with just one recording there. Most devices use solid-state drives. That's what SSD is. And the SSDs can be up to 100 times faster than the old hard drives. You can use cloud storage to free up space on your local device, but cloud storage comes with a price. So if you have started storing your photos and things like that, you may have gotten from Apple or from Google or from Microsoft saying that you have to pay $1.99 or $2.99 or $5.99 for more space up on the cloud there. In laptops, this bigger screen comes at the expense of portability. So some people will say, well, I'm going to get a laptop, but I want to get as big a screen as I can get. So instead of this is like a 15-inch screen on here, they get a 17-inch screen. But they don't realize that that 17-inch screen now means that it's this much bigger to carry and this much heavier to carry, and the battery wears out faster. So there's always trade-offs to what you use. Consumer Reports found that computer reliability does not vary much from vendor to vendor. Roughly 1 in 5 computers, whether they're desktops or laptops, will need repairs within the first 5 years. Because most repairs cost less than the extended service plan, Consumer Reports and most people will say, never purchase a service plan or an extended warranty. It's a moneymaker for whoever sells it, whether it's like Best Buy or Apple or whoever. They make a great deal of money on it. I mentioned here another thing to consider, try the ergonomics of the laptop and the desktop in a store before you buy, if you can. Because keyboards are different sizes. They contain different layouts of the keys, where the delete key is and the arrow keys, and how the track point works there, and things like that. So you want to check all those things out, if possible, before you buy. If you plan to use a laptop or a tablet outside, be sure to see how clear the screen looks in the sunshine. None of the displays look real good in the sunshine. They look washed out, the colors are kind of faded, but there are some that are better than others. Cheaper laptops, cheaper tablets, the display is not going to be as good as some of the more expensive units. So if you plan to use it outside a lot, make sure that it works in the conditions that you plan to use it. You have lots of options for retail or online stores. Best Buy, Walmart, Sam's, Target, Amazon, Newegg, and vendors all provide a wide selection and also have price comparisons. Consider refurbished options as they are often tested and repaired by the manufacturer and can be up to 50% less than what the original cost of the item was. Whether it's a laptop or a desktop, that can be an excellent buy there. Just a little deal. Windows 11 first came out in 2021. So there's plenty of refurbished devices are available. So if you are looking to update a machine that can't be updated from Windows 10 to buy a new machine, you can buy a refurbished machine. And I'll show you some examples there where just for as little as $300 you can get a new machine there. AI computers are all the rage, and you'll see a number of ads for those. But if you do want that AI capability, and by that AI locally on the laptop or the desktop, comes at a price. For the Apple Intelligent, that means that the computer has to have an M4 chip in it. That's their latest chip, and they've only been manufacturing that for, I think, 2 years or a year and a half now or so. Windows has a similar AI that can be done locally, and if you want to use that, you want to look for hardware that's branded as Copilot Plus PC. So you'll see that on the box or in the description for the computer. It'll say Copilot Plus PC, meaning that it has the higher capabilities there. Also, you want to be aware of what software do you need, whether it's apps, websites, or local software. That will also determine what operating system they may require to run that. So you can run into that. Or do you do most of your stuff through a browser? All those are going to factor into what type of machine or what level of machine will meet your needs. Another thing, how many ports do you need? And by ports, those are the connections. So there's different types of connections, USB, USB-C, HDMI. Do you need an Ethernet connection? Wi-Fi versions, FireWire, and if all these don't make sense to you, chances are you're not using it. Oh, excuse me. Oh. If you don't recognize these, that's okay. Chances are you're not using it or need it. But if it's something that you need, that's where it's important then to find it in the device that you're going to purchase there. Some people like the multiple displays. Then you want to make sure that the computer supports that. What resolution? There's all kinds of resolutions, 720K, 1K, 4K, 8K, and each of them cost. You start out with the basic and you go all the way up to the advanced. And just like TVs, where a TV, you can buy a 65-inch TV for $300, or you can buy a 65-inch TV for $3,000 or $5,000. It's the quality and the brightness and everything involved with that. I mentioned here I don't recommend a computer that comes with Windows 11S. So Windows 11S is a special version of the Windows operating system. The S stands for simplified. It's not a full version of Windows. It can only run Windows apps and can't run standard Windows 11 software. If you do want to buy a basic computer, because that's usually where Windows 11S is only available on, is the low-end basic computers, you're best off buying a Chromebook. You'll probably it'll meet your needs better than a Windows 11S computer. Consider your usage and match the battery life if you are going to be using it portable where you're not plugged in. Also consider if you need face recognition, fingerprint, gesture, or PIN, because again, not all devices or all laptops have that same feature or function. Tariff impacts, that's anyone's guess. Our price is going to go up, our price is going to go down. Hard to say given what's going on there. I mentioned here, set a time limit to make a shopping decision. There is no perfect right or wrong decision when you're buying. And the last thing you want to do is do what we call analysis paralysis. You just won't make a decision. You keep asking for more information. You keep seeing ads, or you ask this person and they say, you've got to get option A, and this person says you got to get this type of computer, and you're not making any decision at all. If you need a new computer, stuff like that, you check your needs, check what the machine you want is offering, and then buy it and be happy with it. AI can help you. Artificial intelligence can help you. If you use Amazon, there's actually an orange and blue button for Rufus. Rufus is their artificial intelligence. You can talk to it. You can tell it what your needs are, what you plan on doing with it, and it'll help you shop there. Google also has shopping there. ChatGPT will help you. Gemini and Perplexity will also. You type in your needs and you can have a conversation with it and ask it things, and it'll help you there. Okay, where to buy. This is from the 3M Personal Computing Club survey. We asked them where they bought computers or computer supplies from. And 70% of the members have bought stuff from Best Buy, Amazon close to 60%, Target 32%, Costco, Walmart, OfficeMax, Apple Store, Micro Center. You can see these other ones, but there's a lot of places where you can buy stuff. Most of the sites are very user-friendly for looking things up. So let's go out to the Target website. So I'm going to click here, and that'll open up a browser here, and we'll be taken out to the Target. And we can go in here and we can say, laptop computer. I'm searching for a laptop computer. And it'll come back here. And we've got 772 different models out there. So a lot of models, lots of options there. Well, the nice thing about almost all these sites is you can start filtering it. And so these are the various filters that this site has. I can go here to operating system. I can say, I'm not interested in a Windows 10 because that's going to be obsolete. Why would I buy something that I can only use for a couple months? I want a Windows 11 Home or a Windows 11 Pro. Excuse me. I'll filter it by that. I can also go in here. I know that I want so much RAM, 16 or above here. I can get RAM is random access memory. That's the amount of memory that the CPU has access to. And if you'll see on the smaller machines, there's less RAM because you're not having as many things open. Or if you try and open a lot of things, your machine slows down to practically nothing. It barely creeps along there. So in order to do basic functions, or I'm looking for kind of a mid-level machine, and so I want at least 16 gigabytes of RAM there. The other thing that I can do is I mentioned I'm thrifty, I'm not cheap. Well, let's look at the deals. Let's look at all the deals here. Let's apply that. So you can create all these different filters. I can also change the sort here. Let's change the sort from price low to high. We'll do that. And we've gone down from almost 1,000 models to 130 models here. These are all laptops. These are all available. And you can see there's a laptop for $279 on sale. There's a HP laptop. There's a Lenovo. Now each of these has different configurations as far as RAM or the CPU or things like that. Let's go in here. Acer, let's look here. So here's one. This is one actually I was looking at, and I may be purchasing this one. This is an Acer. It's a low-end CPU, so it's not the fastest computer in the world. I'm looking for a replacement for this laptop. This laptop is not my main computer that I do things on, but I want a computer that's portable, that I can take and do presentations, that I can do quite a number of things on there. This machine I bought 9 years ago when I retired from 3M. It's not capable of being upgraded to Windows 11, so I have to replace it with something. And I'm going to replace it probably with a laptop like this. This has a touch screen. It's a laptop with a touch screen, so it has a AMD Ryzen 5, which is a type of CPU. Again, that type of CPU is a low-end basic CPU. There's probably 100 different CPUs that are faster and stuff like that available. This comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte hard drive. This is a manufacturer refurbished model. So it's refurbished by the company that built it, Acer. So it isn't just somebody in a back room checking things and selling it, and you get it and it doesn't work. This is the company looking it over. It got returned for some reason. The company looked it over, made changes, replaced the battery, whatever, and then sells it. And you typically get those for less than half the price of what a comparable new model would cost there. Let's go down here. Some of the things that we were talking about, you can look at the specifications. This will tell you everything, or most everything about the computer itself, the number of ports that it has, In this case, it has a microphone touch tone, tells you the hard disk size, it'll tell you the resolution. This is the operating system, Windows 11 that it has. This is the type of CPU, this Ryzen 5 screen resolution. This is considered 1K resolution, which is kind of the lower end, but that's all I need to give presentations and things like that. Number of cores, this is the number of cores that the CPU has, and this has 4, but there's some of the high-end models will have 16 or 32 cores, so it's like having 16 people doing things at the same time. That's why those computers are faster for doing certain functions than that. So, but this one has 4, which again, like I say, is more the basic there. And so that's an example there of relatively low cost, except I think last week it was $299, so it has gone up $10 in the last week there. But there's bargains to be had, whether it's out on Target, whether it's on Walmart, whether it's on Best Buy. A lot of these vendors, if you walked into a Target store, you aren't going to see this laptop in the Target store there. It's only available online. You can have it shipped to the store to pick it up, or you can have it shipped directly to you. It's up to you, how you do it. So you can get it. Let's go down here. I'm going to go.
You said not to get a warranty, but how do you assure that they're going to be functioning within a year?
You get the standard warranty from the vendor. So if the vendor has a 90-day or a year,
90 days.
Yeah, so you do have that. The thing that I always tell people with any electronics, whether it's a phone, phones are a little bit different, but let's say a TV or a laptop or things like that, turn it on and leave it on continuously for the first week, because if electronics are going to have a problem or burn out, it's usually in that first initial time that you're using it. So you want to do what's called a burn-in, or use it a lot when you first get it. That kind of ensures that things will work there.
You said a week for turning it on and leaving it on.
Yeah, and that would be even like a TV or that. Leave it on overnight and things like that. And the reason for that is, again, some chips in electronics are heat sensitive. And so the longer that it's left on, they'll fail. And if it's going to fail, you want it to fail while it's under warranty and you can take it back. So if, let's say you bought a TV or you bought a laptop and you didn't use it much at all, and then 6 months from now you started using it, you sat down and you were going to use it all day long, and bang, it went blank and overheated and it's out of luck. Well, that's where if you had left it on initially, it might have failed in that first days there and be covered by the warranty, and so you wouldn't have the issue there.
If you found a deal on Target, would you bring that information into a Target store and say, I found this on deals? Can you ship it to this store? And you give him the information and he would order it for you?
I'm not sure if they'll actually order it, but this is the Target website, and so when you purchase it, you have the option of where to ship it. And for a lot of electronics, when I buy it, so I'll buy like an iPad. Well, I don't have it shipped to my house because I don't want it sitting out on the stoop or somebody stealing it. I have, if you're familiar with Highland, we have the little Target down here. I have it shipped to the little Target, and I'll pick it up down there. So I can walk down there, pick it up. And that's true of any of the Target items. So even the stuff that the little Target doesn't have, I'll order it, have it, they'll ship it, or they take a Uber or whatever and bring it to the store, and I pick it up usually the same day.
So for someone like me who doesn't understand so much, although I really, really appreciate your giving this wonderful lecture, that's a great gift. But how would I know? I mean, you pick that one. What is Lenovo, ThinkPad, Leafbook, and all these different brands? How do we face that and know and discern which is the better value? Is there a trick?
Well, there isn't necessarily one that's a better value. It's kind of like when I started out and I said it's kind of like buying a car. Not everybody buys the same car, and so I can't tell you this is the model that you'll be happy with, because you may say, well, I do things a little bit different, or I don't like the way that the display looks. I like this other one better.
So it's HP, Hewlett Packard.
HP is Hewlett Packard. HP is the largest manufacturer of both desktops and laptops. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I wouldn't recommend anything else, because it's kind of like if you saw that slide that Consumer Reports had. They said basically they're all the same, because under the covers they're using a lot of the same parts.
So the fonts that are available in these, are they regular? I mean, the very small fonts, like the small font is too small for someone else, so we would need a larger font, like 14.
The question, I'll repeat it, is the font the same on all of these? Simple answer is no. And the reason for that is I mentioned a little bit about that resolution of the display. That's how many pixels are on there. Well, if you have more pixels, you end up with a better display. And as an example, let's use like a iMac. An iMac, the higher end iMac has a 4K display. Brilliant picture, brilliant stuff. But the display itself is probably $1,500 to $2,000 just for that display. So the laptop has to be $2,500 for the laptop. Now, do you need that? I can take this machine, and if you're having, it's what we call accessibility. If your accessibility needs are such that you need larger fonts, you can put in larger fonts, like you're familiar with your phone and things like that. So any of these devices, you can change the font and make it larger, or higher contrast, or a black background, or things like that to make it easier to read. But clarity in general, certainly the more you spend on a laptop, the better the display is going to be. But it's that question of, do you need to pay another $500 or $1,000, or is the basic okay?
When you get old, it doesn't get better.
Well, and that's a good question, and I used to sell stereo equipment at my dad's store. He, in addition to a lot of other things, he sold stereo equipment, and I'd have people come in and say, "What stereo should I get?" I said, "Well, it depends there. For some people, they can tell the difference between a $100 receiver and a $5,000 receiver. Other people can't. And so it really is that case of what's good for one person, why overspend if you really don't need it? And that's especially true of things like TVs. You can spend for a 65-inch TV $300. You can get a TV. Or you can spend $3,000, $6,000. Now, are there differences between the two? You betcha. But a lot of people, that $300 is good enough for the type of TV they watch and where they're going to use it. And for them, the trade-off works there. Okay? Let's see if we can find, I'm going to go, there's 6 pages here. Let's go to a higher priced one, and I'll show you some of the differences there, and obviously the differences. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I should have just gone up here to the sort. We'll go high to low. That's all I had to do. So on some of these, you obviously have better display in here. And so here's one for $4,000. This has top of the line CPU. So if you wanted to do artificial intelligence, if you wanted to do video editing, if you wanted to do these things, you can see it has more RAM, 32 gigabytes of RAM, a big NVIDIA is a graphics card. It has this. It's a big. Let's, for the sake of this, let's go here to the specifications. And then all of a sudden we see this has Wi-Fi 7. The others had a Wi-Fi 5 or 6, which is a version or two behind. This has a 2K display here. This has 24 processing cores in it. So that's where you run into differences with these machines. Okay, another example I'll show is this is from Amazon. This is a mini. So this is one of those desktop computers, except it fits literally in the palm of your hand. It's only about 1.5 inches thick by 5 inches by 5 inches. So it's a pretty small little unit. But just because it's small doesn't mean that it's not powerful. It's a basic computer there. Not the fastest computer in the world, but again, if your needs are just basic, this has 16 gigabytes of RAM, 500 gigabyte solid state drive. You can hook up to 2 4K monitors in here, and this is $149. Because I constantly get people that say, well, I don't want to buy a new computer, or they're too expensive, or things like that. And I go, if you look around, you can find, and if you're just buying for what you really need, you're not buying, so I'm not going to buy that $4,000 laptop because I'm not a gamer. I don't need that power. I don't need that stuff. Buy something that'll do what you need it to do. Also, it's a case of when you're spending this kind of money or even buying refurbished, it's a case of you can afford in 3 years or 5 years to buy a new one then, and then buy a new one. So you're kind of leapfrogging the technology to get the biggest and the best when you need it. You want something that does what you need it to do right now today, but for most people, their needs are pretty simple. They aren't complex, and no need to spend more than what you have to spend there. Yeah.
If you buy like this new PC, then additional purchase give you free.
This is just the unit itself. This doesn't even come with a keyboard or a mouse. Just the little square there, which can be some people prefer to buy their own keyboards because there's all different qualities of keyboards. But if you already have a keyboard that works fine, if you already have a display that works, you know, it's kind of up to each individual what other things to add on or that.
So, okay, so let's say you purchase one of these, and then it's like going to a thrift shop, you know, a spot for maybe getting, you know, keyboards, maybe not keyboards, not very expensive, but monitors and stuff.
Monitors are like TVs. You can spend as little as $100 for a bigger monitor, or you can spend a couple $1,000 for a monitor. And again, you know, what do you need? Well, if you said I'm a graphic designer and have clients and I want to make sure the colors are correct and brilliant and vibrant and things like that, that's different than somebody that says, I'm going out to Facebook or I'm reading my email or, you know.
You go to the tax person and they have 4.
Yeah. And do you need multiple monitors and what do you really need there? So it's in a way, this gives you a little more flexibility because you can choose where to spend your money. So if I bought something like this and I wanted to do video calls, well, if I buy a laptop, there's a camera. That camera has a certain resolution. It's not usually the highest resolution camera, which means that I look okay, but I don't look great, and it's not real sharp. Well, you can spend a couple $100 on a camera, just the camera itself, and end up with beautiful video of you in that. And actually, I bought my camera at Menards, and I paid $19.95 for it, and it's a 2K camera. And so, you know, it's a matter of what your needs are and how you want things. And
It sounds like shopping around. I mean, I wouldn't have thought about Menards.
Menards has a number of things for phones and tablets and things like that. But it was a case of I wasn't in there looking for a camera. It was just a case of they were closing out a particular model in there. And I knew the camera that I had a certain resolution, which is okay because most people have a lower resolution camera, but here's a chance for $19 to get something a little better.
I have an iPad, which is certainly okay, but at work I use a laptop. Now I'm not working anymore, and I do continue with Zoom conferences and also professional writing, and the ergonomic position, I pay for it out for my back. So I thought myself that a laptop or a desktop would probably be the best thing for ongoing work, but I'm wondering if you think a laptop on a desk would be equally suitable for all those reasons.
Yeah, you're. Yeah, I'll put out a couple of things, and I'll try and repeat a little bit for the people online or for the recording. When you buy a laptop or a desktop, and if you do have some ergonomics or some challenges there, you know, what should you do? And there are lots of options. For instance, what I have at home is I have kind of this accordion thing that I put my laptop on. It lets me adjust it up and down such that my camera is ideally pointed, so it's not looking up my nose, or you know, you see so many people in a conference or stuff, and it's a horrible picture of the person. So I actually have additional lighting that I use. Actually, I bought the unit that I have at a church rummage sale for $2. somebody got it and obviously didn't use it. It was brand new in the box, and I think you can buy them for about $30 or so. It just look search for laptop stand, and it allows you to change the orientation so that, and you can see even here, I stick a deal of tape underneath here to make the keyboard easier to use and the camera to be at the screen to be at the right. So you have stuff like that. The other thing that you see now for ergonomics is you've probably seen they call them standing tables. So some of them will just sit on top of an existing table that you have, and then it'll elevate the whole thing up a foot or 2 feet high so that you can get it the right distance that you need. So there's lots of stuff out there to help improve it. What you ideally want your laptop or desktop when you're typing is to be 90 degrees. If it's anything more or less than 90 degrees, so if your hands are going down, that's bad. You'll get carpal tunnel in there, and especially where your hands are up high, you're cutting off circulation to the hands. So you don't want to be typing like this. You want this to be 90 degrees. Right. Yeah. So there are plenty of desks out there that are made with keyboard trays or stuff, and depending on the height of your chair, you sit in your chair or move it up or down until you get that 90 degrees there.
This is really helpful. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions, let me know, or